Why is comprehensive sexual education imperative for our students? It's because our current sexual education curriculum is broken. Sexually explicit content is pervasive in our culture. 72% of teens think watching TV with a lot of sexual content influences their peers' behavior somewhat or a lot. Programs with sexual content average 4.4 scenes per hour. On average, music videos contain 93 sexual situations per hour, including 11 hardcore scenes depicting behavior like intercourse and oral sex. Between 1998 and 2005, the number of sexual scenes on TV nearly doubled. 1 in 5 children will be approached by a sexual predator online. 15 to 24-year-olds account for nearly half of all STD diagnoses each year. Watching a lot of sexual content on TV and listening to sexually explicit music lyrics increase the chances that a teen will have sex at an earlier age. 60% of the female video game characters are presented in a sexualized fashion, and the biggest users of online pornography are 12 to 17-year-old boys. Not only do advertising campaigns use sex to sell by objectifying women, our own president-elect has a well-publicized history of sexually predatory behavior. In response to the election results on November 9th, both the president of Planned Parenthood Action Fund and president and CEO of the Sexuality, Information, and Education Council of the United States made statements. Cecile Richards warned of the threat this election result posed to our democracy, to our economic security, to access to reproductive health care, and most especially to the safety and dignity of people of color. While Shitra Punjabi stated, if we are to take President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence at their words, then we must be prepared to see an onslaught of attacks against sexual and reproductive education and health care, impacting those most vulnerable and at the margins of our society. The makeup of the House and the Senate will also impede the paths to justice for our communities. Why does this matter? Pennsylvania law does not require sexual education. It requires only that HIV/AIDS prevention be discussed. It can stress abstinence only, and parents can opt out. In keeping with the state laws, our local district policy states that HIV/AIDS prevention will be taught. The problem with this approach is that in Pennsylvania, 35% of female and 30% of the male high school students have had sexual intercourse, which means 497 of our 1,370 students have had sexual intercourse. 20% of all high school students are currently sexually active, which means 362 of our high school students are currently sexually active. 9% of female and 5% of male students have reported dating violence. 14% of female and 4% of male high school students have reported sexual dating violence, which means 224 of our high school students have experienced some form of relationship violence. The teen pregnancy rate in Pennsylvania is 44 in 1,000 females, and the teen abortion rate is 13 in 1,000 females. This means in our high school, 30 students have become pregnant and 9 have had an abortion. 1,069 out of 100,000 high school students have contracted either chlamydia or gonorrhea, which means there are 29 cases of either chlamydia or gonorrhea in our high school. It is clear from these statistics alone that an abstinence-only policy is not working. Eschweiler asserts that by not teaching comprehensive sexual education, the school is guilty of educational malpractice. Feinberg calls this lack of comprehensive sexual education educational negligence. The goal of public education is to create responsible citizens who can fully participate in a democratic society. With this in mind, it is incumbent upon us to provide our students with comprehensive sexual education, so that they can make informed decisions about their own sexuality. How is this possible in a morally and religiously pluralistic society? There are many different suggestions, all of which deserve consideration. Korngold argues for autonomy-promoting education, which allows the minimally autonomous individual to maintain enough strength of character in the face of countervailing pressure to adhere to the plans, goals, and commitments that he or she has come to reflectively identify with and wishes to uphold. Advocates for Youth assert students have the right to ask any questions they have about issues such as puberty, sex, reproduction, and relationships, receive complete age-appropriate and medically accurate information about sexuality, explore issues that interest them related to their sexual development, develop the skills necessary to form healthy friendships and later healthy romantic partnerships, and have support from caring adults who respect, affirm, and celebrate them for who they are. They have a sexual education curriculum called Rights, Respect, Responsibility. The Unitarian Universalists and the United Church of Christ developed a comprehensive sexual education curriculum called Our Whole Lives, Lifespan Sexuality Education. TALK, the New Sex Ed, is a program based in Pittsburgh. They give young people dynamic, motivated, highly trained educators, transform classrooms into a safe space where students feel comfortable asking real questions, engage students with content that parallels their own experience, create a discourse about topics that matter, develop critical thinking skills, build decision-making capacities, provide foundational knowledge grounded in the latest science, support and empower parents to talk early and often, and bridge the communication gap. These are just a few of the many sexual education programs that are available, and since research on parental attitudes towards sexual education have found that there is parental support for comprehensive sexual education, we must work to provide a solution that will meet the needs of our community. As educators, we need to build a space for all groups to come together to develop a solution to the problems of teenage pregnancy and STDs. We must push for comprehensive sexual education that not only addresses our differing values and morals, but that also addresses the behaviors and how to protect oneself both physically and emotionally. It is time for us to embody the motto of respect, responsibility, and integrity that grace the walls of our great school district.